Today we're getting into the latest Tesla news, including the 5 new cars coming from Tesla this year, new Model 3 safety reports, leaks for the performance Model Y, and more, so let's get into it. And a special thanks to Nola for sponsoring this video. First up today, one of the biggest things that Tesla focuses on with their vehicles is safety, and the Model 3 refresh just received 5 stars overall from Euro NCAP. It's always cool to see these ratings from a third-party agency, especially one from a different country, because it really confirms the safety here. Tesla performed particularly well at protecting pedestrians, cyclists, and motorbikes for the Model 3, and one feature that helps with that is the active hood on the Model 3 that actually does not ship in the US. I would like to see that feature come to the US, but I guess it's a little more necessary in other countries where walking is a lot more common. But it does seem like it doesn't ship here in the US because Tesla's not really required to as much in order to pass these safety tests. But of course, there's other features that contribute there, like automatic emergency braking, and then this new door safety feature that prevents the door from opening if there's something in the blind spot. As for overall results, the Model 3 performed 90% for adult occupants, 93% for child occupants, 89% for vulnerable road users, and then 87% for safety assist. As always, it's great to see Tesla getting great results from a third party and then one from a different country, because it really is different criteria that they're having to pass here, and they're passing with flying colors. Now, when it comes to Tesla in the United States, a lot of people are worried about their sales, and yes, they were down in Q1, and it will be interesting to see how Q2 develops, because it seems like they're sitting on quite a bit of inventory of current vehicles. But they still absolutely dominate when it comes to sales. When we look at March of this year, Tesla sold 51,042 vehicles, or they had that many registrations. Compared to all other EVs combined, all other EVs were 67,014 registrations within March. So the second best here, following Tesla, is Chevy at 8,478. So they're still absolutely beating these cars by wide margins. And I'm curious to see how the rest of the year plays out here. Next up today, we know that Tesla has a few different cars on the horizon. But first up is a vehicle that is the configuration they have shipped for a long time, the performance version of the Model Y. So far, that car has not actually been released, and that's the same method Tesla did with the Model 3 refresh. They launched all of the other trims of that car, and then finally unveiled the performance version. They actually held a special little press event for that unveiling, and then that car came to be. They waited because it actually had a lot of changes from the standard version, including entirely different front bucket seats, carbon fiber trim inside, a different front bumper and rear diffuser, and then an adaptive suspension. Well, we know that coming up, we should be getting more affordable vehicles from Tesla, but first up, it seems they need to launch the most expensive version of the Model Y, and it was just spotted out testing. Now, we've already seen versions of the Model Y out in the wild covered up, so we've assumed that these were either that future cheaper version or the performance model, but this time it is definitely the performance model. This Model Y was spotted out testing on the Nurburgring track, and it's camouflage wrapped. The first thing I'll say is that there's actually not a ton to see here. Overall, when we look at all of the details that are wrapped like this, even up close and really spend some time, it doesn't seem like there's a ton of change, other than the lowered ride height. This is clearly riding lower than the standard version of the Model Y, and that is standard for Tesla's performance versions of their vehicles. When we look at it from the front, this is definitely that refreshed Model Y, and since there were 2 passengers, we're not actually able to see those front seats. But looking at the side view is where we really get a good look at these wheels. These look an awful lot like the Arachnid wheels on the Model S that come with the standard Model S if you upgrade, or the Plaid Model S as well. And then of course this has special red brake calipers just like the Model 3 Performance does. I think this photo really emphasizes that lowered ride height as well. So we know that will be lowered, and then it will definitely have that adaptive suspension that the Model 3 Performance has. This enables 2 different ride types, standard and sport, and then of course for acceleration modes you're going to have chill, standard, and insane. Around back, the main detail to see here is that spoiler. It looks a bit larger than the previous Model Y spoiler. So in addition to those small details, the specs we are expecting are about 510 horsepower, which should enable a 0 to 60 in about 3.2 seconds. That's lowered from the previous 3.5 seconds on the Model Y Performance. And this is expected to come in around $55,000 or maybe a bit more from there, and then deliver about 290 miles of range. That's based on how much less range the Model Y Performance performance got in the past, and then comparing it to the current numbers. I think 290 is a pretty good and reasonable estimate for this car, especially since the Model 3 performance gets 298 miles officially from the EPA. That may sound lower than it has been in the past, and that's because it actually is, but it's not that this car actually lowered in efficiency or its capabilities to go as far. It's actually the EPA changed their testing methods and made it more accurate to the real world. So overall, it's a good thing, even though we're seeing it under 300 miles now. When looking around back at this Model Y performance, it overall looks the same, and I can't really see a difference in that diffuser there. So it appears that just the wheels and the height are changing, which makes me wonder why Tesla's actually camouflage wrapping this. If they're not camo wrapping the wheels, and then you can obviously see the spoiler, and then you can obviously see that it's riding lower, what are they actually hiding? I think all of the details that we can see that are changing on the performance Model Y are already there. But maybe there's something else that they are successfully hiding from us, or maybe they're just doing this to create interest and speculation and have people talk about it like I'm doing right now. At the same time that Model Y performance was spotted on the Nurburgring, so was a Model S that Tesla has camouflage over. This is an interesting one to see because the Model S plaid obviously already exists, and Tesla hasn't really changed that car all that much in recent years. But with this camouflage, we can clearly see that the front bumper is updated. It's a little more aggressive and has an additional front lip. On top of that, these are new wheels for the Model S. They are pretty similar to the Arachnid wheels, but they're different, and maybe these are an updated version of the track package wheels that Tesla sells. That track package is what really upgrades the plaid Model S to become a total track car and actually reach its top speed of 200 miles per hour. The rear of this car is covered as well, and it's definitely a different rear diffuser. We can compare these cars side by side here. This is clearly Tesla going for a much sportier design. And here's more of a comparison of these cars side by side. We can see the current plaid Model S, and then the bumper of this new one, which definitely sticks out more and is definitely sportier. Then we have the rear diffuser here, and that new one, which is quite a bit bigger and has more cuts within it. Then the next feature we spot here that indicates this is the next generation of the Model S, at least to some degree, is a front bumper camera. Of course, Tesla is now shipping this standard on the Cybertruck and the Model Y, so it's shipping on their best-selling car. So of course, it's going to be coming to all of the rest of their vehicles in a timely manner. So that indicates that this might not just be a special upgrade to only the plaid version. This could be a preview of what we're getting for this refresh that Tesla talked about earlier this year. Lars Murray said they are going to give some love to the Model S and X sometime this year, so we are expecting some sort of a refresh. Overall, this seems to be kind of a slight one, but it does differentiate this car and make it sportier, and maybe they would be upgrading the performance as well. The Model S Plaid is no longer the world's quickest accelerating car that's in production. There are other cars like the Lucid Air Sapphire that do beat it at a 0 to 60. So maybe Tesla wants to take back that crown again and perform even better at the Nurburgring, while upgrading the styling and more at the same time. A lot of people are hoping for upgrades to the overall platform of this car, but it doesn't seem too likely that we'd be getting things like an 800-volt architecture and more. But time will tell. Now, speaking of the Model S and X, the current version for a while has had free supercharging attached to it, but now it's only being offered for these cars in inventory. Specifically, it's not being offered on custom orders, so this is really Tesla trying to specifically clear the inventory of the Model S and X. Could this be a sign that a refresh is around the corner as they're trying to specifically clear inventory? In fact, on the main website for the Model S and X, it says free supercharging on inventory. So they aren't just offering this on the back end for people to catch when they're going to inventory. They're really trying to drive them there and give them an incentive to do so. And free supercharging for life is definitely a great incentive. I'm curious to see what may come of that because overall, people will be excited about a Model S and X refresh, but it won't make too big of a difference for Tesla as a whole. What will make a big difference, though, is the third car we're expecting to see from Tesla this year, and that is a stripped-back version of the Model Y. Before we go any further, I want to take a minute to talk about today's sponsor, Nola. Getting a good night's sleep is one of the most important parts of ensuring that I have a happy and productive day. That's where Nola mattress steps in. They are an award-winning brand that is known for their special cooling technology, great pressure relief, and long-lasting durability. Shopping for a new mattress can be a pain, so Nola makes it easy by shipping right to your door. We all have unique sleep needs that Nola can meet with their wide range of great products. I personally wanted a more comfortable, firm mattress that's good for a side sleeper, so I went with their Evolution model. Since getting that new mattress, my sleep quality has improved dramatically, and I really love the temperature control as we start shifting into warmer weather over here in California. It's great for all climates and keeps me comfortable all the time. Shopping online was easy and safe, and their free delivery took all the pain out of getting a new mattress. It also came rolled up in a box at my doorstep and was easy to unpack and set up. Unlike other brands, Nola mattresses don't contain any fiberglass, and they are made without any harmful chemicals. Every one of their mattresses is designed and produced from their Arizona factory, where they do all of their own coiling, foam pouring, cutting, lamination, and sewing in-house, ensuring only the best quality. Nola recognizes how important it is to get a good night's sleep, which is why they offer a 120-night sleep trial period, so you can have 3 months to make sure your mattress is a perfect fit. If you're looking to upgrade your sleep, head to nolamattress.com/RyanShaw and use code RyanShaw to get an extra $50 off your Nola mattress, plus 2 free pillows with select mattresses. This is an additional discount on top of what is being offered on site, so check them out while you can. We've seen Tesla out with cars that don't appear to necessarily be the performance model, but they have the front and rear entirely covered. So if the performance model isn't really changing those things, as we don't really see in that camouflage version, what are they hiding from us with those Model Ys that have the front and rear entirely covered in black? Tesla's communication here has been very limited, but on their last earnings call, they specifically said more affordable options are as critical as ever. So even though some think that more affordable models could simply mean the reintroduction of rear-wheel drive models and the introduction of the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck and more, it seems they're actually saying more affordable as in more affordable than they have shipped before. The specifics here, I've said many times, are plans for new vehicles, including more affordable models, remain on track for start of production in the first half of 2025. These vehicles will utilize aspects of the next generation platform as well as aspects of our current platforms and will be produced on the same manufacturing lines as our current vehicle lineup. Internally, this is reportedly known as Project E41, and it's specifically a cheaper version of the Model Y that's aiming to have about 20% of a reduction in production costs by 2026. Now, of course, we think about this a lot in the US, but it's very important for the Chinese market because there's tons of competition there. I talked about how Tesla is dominating the US EV market, but over in China, it is definitely not that same situation. There's a lot of competition from automakers that make great cars that are also affordable. In any case, while Tesla has indicated the first half of 2025, that could be referring to maybe a rear-wheel drive car, and then throughout the year or into 2026 is when we'll see these cheaper cars, because rumors say the timeline here is 2026 for an arrival at Giga Shanghai. Then subsequent production is anticipated in Europe and North America. In order to reduce cost here, we're expecting textile fabric for the seats and the trim, the elimination of heated and cooled seats, the elimination of a heated steering wheel, the removal of the rear entertainment screen. Ambient lighting will be white only. They may limit dual pane acoustic glass in the front windows and the windshield, and then reduce the number of speakers and remove the subwoofers and an amplifier. This would be an entry point SUV for Tesla, but then at the same time, there's rumors of a fourth car. In the reports talking about this E41 project, they also say Tesla is also planning to launch a bare-bones version of its Model 3 compact sedan. These cars are especially necessary in North America right now, as we know, and it seems like they should be arriving soon, but it's also very important globally because Tesla is a global company. I talked about China and the competition there, but for Q1, Tesla did sell more cars in China than they did in the US, so maybe that's the more important market for them to address first with more affordable vehicles, even though of course we really want them in the US, and it seems like inventory is probably stacking up. Either way, that will be exciting to see a more stripped back version of the Model 3. I think they'll definitely start with the Y since it's their most popular car, but a stripped back version of the Model 3 will be good to see, and we already see them shipping one in Mexico with downgrades like the removal of that rear seat and textile fabric seats. Elon did just do an interview where he reiterated, quote, "Our sales are doing well at this point. We don't anticipate any sales shortfall. The stock market recognizes that since we are over a $1 trillion market cap, it's already turned around. We've lost some sales on the left, but we've gained some on the right. The sales numbers at this point are strong. We see no problem with demand." A lot of people will take plenty of issue with this statement, but that is what Tesla is officially saying, at least, through Elon Musk, and we'll see how that develops throughout the rest of the year. In any case, the fifth car that we do expect to see this year at some point from Tesla is the Robotaxi. Now, when it comes to the Robotaxi, it can be a little confusing, because the Robotaxi is actually more of a function that Tesla can deliver on a number of vehicles. Seemingly, this is something that could come to most of their cars once the software is delivered, and they can operate as Robotaxis. But the Cybercab is the dedicated vehicle for that task without a steering wheel or pedals. First, in June, we're going to see first robotaxis, and Elon did just give us a little more detail about this rollout in an interview. He said that initially Tesla will launch its robotaxi by late June in Austin, so it's now moved from the beginning of June, as indicated by Tesla's AI page on X, to late June. I did kind of expect that, because they're always at the end of the deadlines that they set, at least for the most part, but now it seems like late June is confirmed, and then they're starting with 10 vehicles and gradually expanding to 1,000 within a few months. I'd definitely say to keep Elon time in mind with that 1,000 vehicle goal, but we'll have to see how this goes. The initial fleet will operate without onboard drivers, but it will be monitored by remote teleoperators to assist if necessary. This is much like what Waymo does today, but I'm sure they'll be a little more active, at least at first. At first, operations will be specific geofenced areas in Austin, avoiding complex intersections, unless the system can demonstrate high confidence in handling them. And then after Austin, they plan to expand to cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Antonio. Then, of course, they plan to allow owners to be able to put their robotaxis on the network into the future, and that has been something Tesla has talked about for quite some time. Although I wouldn't be surprised if that still doesn't happen all the way through 2026, even if we're seeing them operating their own successful robotaxis, even in multiple markets. As such, Tesla is advocating for more of a unified national regulation for streamlining autonomous vehicle operations across different jurisdictions, and it does seem like this is something that would benefit all brands. If there was a unified regulation they could get approved for in the country, then they can expand from there, and companies like Waymo, Zoox, and everyone else competing in the robotaxi space would be a fan of this. The current prediction from Elon Musk, though, is by the end of 2026, over 1 million Teslas in the US will be capable of unsupervised full self-driving. At the same time, Elon gave the U.S. Transportation Secretary a tour of Giga Texas, and he spoke a lot in that CNBC interview. But one piece he did mention that should be huge for Tesla into the future, of course, if they succeed with full self-driving, is that, quote, there are a number of automakers that have talked to us about licensing FSD. So the AI training demand is huge for FSD as a whole, which is why Tesla is building the infrastructure at Giga Texas with Cortex 2. But Tesla is also on the other side of this, because AI training takes a ton of power. It requires a lot of power to actually do all the training that enables these features on the back end. So Elon Musk's other company, xAI, is working on their Colossus 2 in Memphis, Tennessee. They just received 168 Megapacks from Tesla, which should provide about 150 megawatts of capacity. Elon said of this, 1 million of the next-gen GPUs, it's a gigawatt-class system, it'll be done in 6 to 9 months. So Tesla is actually a big part of enabling this over at xAI, and could be a big part of enabling this kind of training center for a lot of companies with their energy storage systems. It's a huge part of their business that people aren't really fully aware of. But Elon was very clear about the future of Tesla. He said, quote, the only things that matter in the long term are autonomy and Optimus. As for Q1, Tesla had a global factory changeover for the Model Y. We've seen a major rebound in demand. At least in my area, doesn't seem to be the case with the long-range all-wheel drive readily available to buy today in any configuration I want, but we'll have to see how this all develops, and we'll get those results for sure in a couple months. When it comes to the Robotaxi, though, we of course know that Tesla has competition in Waymo. In certain areas, you can see these operating all the time, and Waymo is expanding. They just received approval to expand to more areas around San Francisco, and then most of San Jose, and they also announced the milestone of 10 million autonomous paid rides. That's a very big milestone for Waymo, and they're operating very well. In fact, I know a lot of people who really like this service. But of course, the other part of that future for Tesla is Optimus, and Tesla has been posting a little more of this robot lately. They posted a video of it not just dancing, but doing a lot of tasks, and doing them based on natural language. Here it picks up trash and places it in a bin. It picks up a brush and dustpan to clean a table. Then they tell it, tear a paper towel from the roll, pick up the spoon and stir the pot, use the vacuum to clean the floor, and more. Basically, they're showing it can understand the natural language and then act accordingly, and these are learned from human videos. But of course, it's very obvious that all of these videos are sped up, so it's doing all of these things quite slowly, and they're speeding it up for the demo. On the other side of things, their recent dancing demo was at 1x, so I'm excited to see the rest of these demos come to be at 1x. Elon said that Optimus will be able to learn things from YouTube videos, and that's basically what this demo is. And Milan Kovac at Tesla also said, one of our goals is to have Optimus learn straight from internet videos of humans doing tasks. These are often third-person views captured by random cameras, etc. We recently had a significant breakthrough along that journey, and can now transfer a big chunk of the learning directly from human videos to the bots, first-person views for now. This allows us to bootstrap new tasks much faster compared to teleoperated bot data alone, heavier operationally. If all goes well here, Elon says that demand will be insatiable for the Tesla bot. This is a product I'm very, very curious about because tons of companies are working on humanoid robotics. Tesla is by no means the only company thinking that this technology is going to be huge in the future. NVIDIA's CEO recently talked about the fact that humanoid robots are likely the only universal type of robot that will work. And he said, quote, "The reason for that is because technology needs scale. Most of the robotic systems we've had so far are too low volume, and those low volume systems will never achieve the technology scale to get the flywheel going fast enough so that we are willing to dedicate enough technology into it to make it better." Then, of course, the whole world has been designed for humans, so a humanoid robot could operate in that world a lot easier than a bunch of custom designed ones. A lot of companies are confident in this future along with Tesla, but it seems like it's something that's going to take the public a lot of time to come around to, the idea of actually wanting to use humanoid robots in all these scenarios. But I think the more demos we see of things actually happening in the real world, the more excited people will actually be. It just seems like it's still quite a ways off. Then lastly, regarding all of these interviews with Elon Musk, he said one thing people will be excited to hear. He plans to spend a lot less in future politics. Quote, "I've done enough. If I see a reason to do political spending, I will, but I don't currently see a reason." No matter what, Elon's endeavors into politics have had an effect on Tesla, so many shareholders and customers in general will be excited to see him more so just focused on the company, which he said he plans to be CEO of for at least 5 more years. There's always a lot going on at Tesla, but it seems we should see 5 more cars shipping this year, even with first versions of that dedicated Robotaxi launching, just not at scale yet. Last up today, some updates from other automakers. Over at Waymo, they just faced a new recall that hit headlines. NHTSA posted about it, and many headlines showed that this was over 1,200 vehicles recalled for possibly hitting gates, chains, and more. But like many Tesla recalls, this was actually a software recall for Waymo vehicles. As such, Tesla's lead Cybertruck engineer actually chimed in here on Twitter saying, quote, "This is alarm fatigue and diminishing the value of a recall. A software issue which caused no injuries was fixed in November, rolled out to the entire fleet in December, yet reported now in May. A recall should notify that equipment is potentially unsafe and should be brought back to the manufacturer for remedy." He detailed how this issue was addressed 5 months ago, how Waymo owns these vehicles, and how a recall really isn't the right tool here. Quote, "In my opinion, recalls should be reserved for something that needs to be physically recalled. There should be a new and faster process for notification of safety-critical software updates." Remarkably, many headlines about this actually did get it right. It called it specifically a minor recall, or even indicated in the headline that it was a software fix, and Tesla rarely gets that treatment. But across the board, this is starting to make more and more sense that this system overall needs to be changed. Calling everything a recall diminishes the value of the recall as a statement, because people will start to ignore them more and more, when in some cases you might actually need to take your car in to get your airbags or your seatbelt fixed. Either way, we're probably going to see more and more of these into the future, so I'd love to see this system fixed from NHTSA, but we'll see how that all goes. Over at Toyota, they have introduced the new BZ Woodland. We talked recently about the Toyota CHR electric vehicle, which is coming soon, but this BZ Woodland is about 6 inches longer than the BZ4X, so it's its bigger sibling. It has a range up to 260 miles, native NACS port, a battery size of 74.7 kilowatt hours, peak charging at 150 kilowatts, a 14-inch touchscreen inside, ventilated front seats, and then deliveries are set to start in 2026 in the US. This marks the third real dedicated EV that Toyota will be shipping in the United States, so I'm excited to see these come to be. Of course, that charging speed is a little low compared to a lot of other vehicles coming to market, but we'll see how this rollout goes. A lot of people like Toyota and will ignore a lot of those other things like a slower charging speed. Over at GM, they've been lobbying a lot recently because a California law that was enacted banned the sales of new gas-powered vehicles and trucks by 2035. 11 other states have adopted a similar rule here, and the rule requires 35% of new vehicle sales to be zero emissions by 2026 in the state. However, current sales in California are only at about 20%. So GM definitely initially supported this initiative of that 2035 goal, but they're now lobbying to reverse California's mandate here. The company has urged employees to contact lawmakers, arguing that the mandate threatens affordability and consumer choice. They cite declining EV demand, rising costs, and potential reductions in tax incentives as reasons for reevaluating this strategy as a whole. Many on both sides of the aisle as well have expressed concerns over the feasibility and economic impact of this mandate as a whole. And Elon and Tesla, of course, believe it's inevitable that all cars will be EVs, but of course it takes some time. This does appear to show that GM is kind of showing their cards here, and their real focus. They aren't as dead center focused on EVs as people like to think that they are, because they're trying to reverse this mandate. But at the same time, you do have to look at the reality of the situation, and look at, well, we don't actually have truly affordable EVs available at scale yet from really anyone. Even Tesla is still introducing their more affordable models coming later this year. So this is an interesting move to see, and we'll see what happens with all of these mandates. I do think that long term, regardless, the technology will win out, but it takes time to get there. That's all the latest Tesla news for today, so in the meantime, if you want to see my top tips and tricks for the Model 3 and Y in their latest versions, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.